everybody, if you would give $1 or $2 before you leave, we certainly would like that because all grant monies they're dwindling, and we have to keep this open. As many of you don't know, this was our former high school. It opened in 1932. First graduating class was 1933. Last class was 1966. This was our gymnasium. This is where we played basketball, where we had fun. But when the school closed down and it went into destruction and everything, it cost money to even restore that, but they didn't even want us to have this building, wanted to tear it down, but there were a few people who said, no, it's not going to happen. So they fought very hard to do exactly that. Today, you see this multiple emphasis, this building is still our school. And nothing is gone. The same bricks, nothing is gone, but we need your support financially. When you come here, if you would just drop off $1, $2, anytime you come by. But tonight we're asking that you would just give us a donation. Everybody would just do whatever you can. Whatever you want to give, we certainly would appreciate it. But in the meantime, we do have membership forms that you can go by. We have the alumni membership, we have regular membership, we have senior membership, we have student membership, we have institutional memberships, we have friend membership, we have memberships. We just say, we need your dollars, your 50 cents, your quarters, your pennies. If you save one every day, it will make what? It will make money. And we thank you for coming and using this center. We encourage you to invite your friends to come and use this center. We're available, but we have to have some funds. There's the electric bill, and there's the air conditioning, and there are all of those things, but we just want to thank you. And those of you who did not attend this school, this was a wonderful place. This was the only school for all of us in Anne Arundel County. By Nick Smith or whatever, how we got to school, we got here. Had to walk miles. People lived in Brooklyn. They had to walk to the school, way down the shady side. They had to walk to the school. Can you imagine having to walk in the bitter cold winter until we got the buses? But still, we did not have the type of information as to education as others, but we had good teachers, and they were determined that they were going to teach us the best, and they did. Because we have so many fine people that have come out of this school, that have graduated from this school. So we thank you this evening for coming by, and we ask for your support, and at any time, your support, not only tonight, anytime. Invite your friends to come by. Invite your friends to share their finances with us. We can use them. Thank you so much, and thank you, Paul.
You have a basket.
Oh yes, I do have a basket.
Can we get the baskets? I'm going to make a contribution. I want to encourage everyone else to do it. As Mrs. Cropper said, they have been just absolutely fabulous for us. We've been meeting here for the last 2 years.
Oh yes.
Whatever you expect. The only thing that's not acceptable is food stamps. Anything else? And Ms. Cropper, we get that basket. We do this very quickly. We want to go to the next item. Right. And also, as she pointed out, if you want to join the organization and become a member, you can do that as well. So while she's getting that together, I'd like to have our councilman, Andrew Prisky, come up and say hello to the folks. Would you join me in welcoming to the podium? Thank you for coming.
I certainly didn't plan to speak tonight, but I did want to drop by and certainly thank Carl and the group for putting on this presentation. I think it's very informative. and I also think it's gonna help us ask some questions about procedure. I know we also have Judge Barber here. I want to welcome her. Certainly, we're supporting her in the election, and we also have some representatives from the West County Democratic Club. And I'm going to put in a plug. They have a flyer going around that you can take a look at the barbecue that they're trying to have. But I just want to thank Carl for letting me come up. Certainly, I'm here if anybody has any questions. I try and follow what's going on, and if there's anything I can do to support you, I appreciate it. Thanks for allowing me to come tonight.
Thank you. Is Otis around? I want to get this announcement out of the way. Is Otis here? Well, somebody. Daryl, you want to come up, Daryl, and make this pitch? Please. We use this opportunity to exchange information and let people know what's going on. I want to get this out early.
Thank you, Carl. Good evening to everyone. The West County Democratic Club that's based in the western part of our county, over in Severn, is going to be having a fish frying, pig picking, blues playing, good time cookout on September the 10th, 2016 from noon to 4 p.m. The most appropriate place they could find in Anne Arundel County to have the fish frying, pig picking, blues playing, good time cookout is a place, Bill Dotson's in Glen Burnie. So we open the doors to you. You're certainly welcome to attend, to bring your friends and family. It's $25 per person. There will be fish and pigs and hot dogs and baked beans and string beans, bread, cake, water, all kinds of juices, as well as a beer truck. So we encourage you to come out and support West County Democratic Club as we begin our swing toward the November election on September the 10th, 2016. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Is the basket finished being passed around? You want to give it Thanks. Now, for the newer persons here, I'm going to take a minute to describe what it is that the Caucus of African American Leaders do, and then we're going to get right into the program. Caucus of African American Leaders is a consortium of black organizations ranging from business people to political activists, elected officials, etc. The caucus got started 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, because an African American woman who was the health officer, many of us believe was unfairly fired from her job. The community mobilized, organized, and energized. We organized, mobilized, and energized the community and got people involved. And one of the things we discovered is that once we as a people come together, we can make incredible progress. I can tell you that 2 years ago, some of the issues that we were confronting, we not only confronted, but we won. He's not here yet, but he will soon be here. Deputy Chief Lawrence, Reverend Lawrence, who was fired. Oh, there he is. Sorry, he is here. He was dismissed from his job at the airport because of the work and energy that was done by members of this group. He got rehired again. We had a situation where several city employees were being terminated. Many of us felt unfairly. Again, we were able to organize, and they were able to be rehired. So we've got a long record of what happens when our community comes together. And for those who are new, I just want to give you this concept. The difference between a bumblebee and a hornet, they're both insects, is how they behave. A bumblebee, having been a farmer, guy that grew up on the farm, I can tell you, if you ever see a bumblebee, you can go in, there could be 100 bumblebees, you can kill each one of them individually. And the other bumblebees won't do anything. And And eventually, you could do away with every bumblebee there. But the hornet, which is a smaller insect, if you touch one of them, you got the entire hornet nest to deal with. They're so organized, they're so powerful, that black bears respect them. Because there's something about being organized that makes a difference in the world. And so we came together with the concept. We meet once a month, look at issues that's confronting our community, and then in an organized way, address those issues. One of the things that happened as I lead into our event tonight, which is dealing with police, I want to deal with 3 specific issues that have come up over the last several years. I want you to think about this. He's not here tonight, but Sergeant James Spearman has served more than 30 years on the Dallas Police Department. He and several other black officers say there's disparate treatment, that the way African American officers are treated is different than white officers. And when he made that allegation, there were those who said, no. There were people in the Dallas Police Department who said that's not true, that they treat everybody the same. And what I want to do tonight is give you specific examples of what has happened on the Dallas Police Department that I think underscores that there is disparate treatment. There's a captain of the police department, Chris Amola, A-M-O-L-A. He was involved in at least 3 domestic violence incidents, including being arrested. There was no disciplinary action that was taken against him. And just to make this real clear, particularly for those who are not familiar with the process, the law says that if you're involved in a domestic incident and you're a police officer, there are certain things that happen to you automatically. One is to take the weapon from you, you're put on administrative duties, etc. The first time a domestic incident takes place, a domestic violence incident, the spouse can decide not to cooperate. And so that kind of goes away. One might wonder how could a captain be involved in more than one incident and nothing happens to him. The answer is that there's really a loophole in the law. He got married again. And when he got involved in the incident, he was given the same rights as a person who had never been involved before. Then we have, in his case, he became a captain of the police department, even after this domestic incident. Then there's Sergeant Chris Kenton, who altered an arrest record. This is all matter of public record. He was promoted after altering a police arrest. Then we had Corporal John Suppuko. That's J-O-N-S-U-P-K-O. You can't make this stuff up. A fellow police officer charged him with sexual harassment. Her complaint was sustained that he, this officer, did harass another police officer. And they found that he had sexually harassed her. And that officer was named Officer of the Month. Then we have Sergeant Jessica Kirshner, K-I-R-C-H-N-E-R. She admitted in federal court to have falsified an arrest record, falsified a police report. She too was promoted. Then we have an officer, Joshua, and I'll spell his last name, I believe it's Libros, but it's spelled L-I-E-B-R-O-S-S. He assaulted a handcuffed prisoner for spitting on another officer and was never charged with brutality, even though he admitted to it. And since he's become a detective. Officer Conway, his name, last name is spelled K-O-L-D-A-W-A-Y, was in the downtown area of Annapolis carrying a weapon while having consumed alcohol. He assaulted a female for not speaking to him. When confronted by the boyfriend, this officer flashed his gun at the police while it was tucked in his waistband. When the two citizens called 911, the officer took off running, and the citizen gave chase. When the police officer arrived, when the police arrived, the officer was not arrested. He was given a ride home. He was not even suspended on the spot. The next morning, another citizen came to the police station to return his badge, which the officer lost somewhere downtown the night the night the fight took place. He was disciplined for the incident. However, black officers had been terminated for far less, such as, and the officer's first name is Thomas, Cold Away. So these African American officers have been complaining that they've been subject to disparate treatment. They gave specific examples. I was at a meeting at City Hall where one of our alderpersons announced we have a great police department. I think, given what I just read to you, that's an incredible statement they've made. The fact of the matter is that there's reforms that need to be done at the Annapolis Police Department. And I applaud Sergeant Spearman, who has publicly come forward. There is something that's going on in the community. I just want to make this one point. There's something that's going on in the community, and I want people to listen very carefully. We've had several incidents where there have been shootings occur, and we've had police officers say that the community will not cooperate with them. It's called a no snitching policy. Do you know where people got the no snitching policy from? Do you know why the community don't cooperate with the police? Because in many instances, when police officers are involved in either something that violates a regulation or a law, fellow police officers don't speak up. That leads to people having less trust in the system. If police officers who witness other police officers do things, and they have silence, there's no wonder that some members of the community behave the exact same way. Will, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I just wanted to underscore what you were saying about the police department, because I think we have a lot of conversations about corruption and about reform. But if all of you, which is public information, if you go on to the website, the city's website, and look at the highest paid employees of the city of Annapolis, and what you'll see is shocking in that most of the list that's on there for the highest paid by far, almost $200,000 a year is mostly upper brass at the police department. So to underscore what he's saying, it's not just that this is occurring, but it's that in a city like Annapolis, where we have all of these other socioeconomic issues, most of our city's budget every year is bolstering this already corrupt and kind of shaky system that we have. You know, so a part of the corruption and what Carl's pointing out is even worse, because every year, without that being reformed or fixed, they are telling our communities that they don't have enough money to invest in the community and to invest in things like education that we know are extremely important, and yet they immediately give that money to the police department. And I think that that's
The highest paid official in the city of Annapolis, the highest paid official in the city of Annapolis is not the mayor, it's not the city attorney, it's not the head of public works, it's the police chief. He makes $153,000 a year. and as I move into this presentation, I want to be very clear on something. We have gotten things reversed. People forget that public servants work for people. All of us in this room are the employer of public servants. Police officers and other public servants work for the community as a whole. Not only do we have the responsibility, but we have the obligation to make sure that they're doing their jobs properly. There was something said at City Hall that I want to make extraordinarily clear. I heard it with my own ears. Somebody was trying to say, given the reality of how blacks live in Annapolis, in the nation, we've had all of these shootings, many of them fatal by African Americans. So we've had people tell us as a community that we must accept the following, that we as citizens of color are going to be treated differently than our counterparts. So that if you have a son, a grandson, a daughter, or a granddaughter, and a police officer stops that person, we're being instructed to tell them to not only comply with everything the police officer says, but even if the police officer is doing something inappropriate or illegal, to say nothing. And that's the advice we're being given. And some people have said that's the appropriate way to ensure that our children survive. I disagree with that. I think we need to create a society where regardless of your color, you're going to be treated the same, whether you happen to live in Eastport or whether you live in the public housing community. People are not to be disrespected. And certain kinds of vulgarity should be used. Thank you. Aimed at those persons. So, here's what we're going to do this evening. All over the country, there have been incidents where people have been fatally shot by law enforcement officials. Most of the cases that we know of today, we would not know of those cases had it not been for someone recording the incident. The courts recently ruled that citizens have a right to videotape and record the police officers doing their job. So what we're going to do this evening, Amy is going to come in a moment and share with us how one can legally record the interaction of police officers with members of the community, and what can be done if that particular behavior is not appropriate. It should not take a genius to realize that once you learn this particular skill on how to record officers who are interacting with members of the community, you also have the ability to record citizens who are doing things in the community that's not appropriate, and that's harmful to our community. That data can be used to ensure that we have a safe community. Police officers that come into the community that's taken an oath to serve and protect will in fact take place, and citizens who engage in illicit criminal activity will know that there are people in the community who will record that and see to it that the appropriate officials get that information. Amy has been doing this presentation on your tables. I think you have something called Know Your Rights. And with no further ado, please join me in welcoming Amy Cruz, American Civil Liberties Union.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me. do want to start by acknowledging that the police issues that we talk about are systemic, deep issues that don't have a quick fix. And we at the ACLU work on police reform at the state level. We have a lot of laws, a couple of laws that need to be changed in order to make police accountability a reality. And so until those laws are changed, our hands are kind of tied in terms of seeing police fully disciplined or held accountable for their actions. Short of that, until we can change those laws, there are other things that we can do. And our Know Your Rights program is one of those, the tools that we have as individuals. So, and then a lot of the other cases and issues that were mentioned by Carl earlier are other things that we can be doing to work for a little more justice in our policing. And I do also want to acknowledge something that I always begin my Know Your Rights trainings with, is to acknowledge that, like I said, it's a systemic, deep systemic problem, police abuse is. But on top of that, some of our police abuse is fueled and inspired by structural racism, which leaves some neighborhoods untouched while others are preyed upon. And I say that because I want it to be very clear that what might happen to me in a police encounter, or what I can do in a police encounter, might be different than what how Carl will be approached, which might be different than how Tola is approached. So I want to acknowledge that when we talk about knowing your rights and tips for how to interact in police encounters, we understand that it's also going to depend on the situation, everything from who you are and your background and what you need to do that day, to what the police officer is bringing to the encounter in terms of attitude or their history. So, but we can't go through every single scenario at these trainings, so just understand that this is something that we acknowledge as a reality. So, having said that, I also want to say that knowing your rights doesn't make everything fine. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be arrested. We also understand that. But we think of it as a tool that we can use, as it's knowledge, which is a tool that we can use in order to make our own decisions based on information about the law and also about what we know to be common scenarios in which we can get ourselves into a position we don't want to be in. So it's just one tool. We understand that doesn't mean that police are going to not arrest us or not abuse us if we know our rights. And there are plenty of videos on YouTube to show people who know their rights and still get arrested or even killed. So with all of that, I still think that this is a really important thing for us to think about, and partly because I think that everyone should think about police encounters ahead of time so that you can decide how you would approach a certain situation. So a lot of this is about being prepared. So we prepare our children and our friends and family for different kinds of potential catastrophe scenarios, right? But we don't really talk, well, some of us don't talk enough about what would you do if you saw police beating somebody up on the street, or if you get pulled over and they ask you if they can search your car, if they say something like, "You're not doing anything wrong and you don't mind if I search your car," right? Thinking ahead and planning what you want to say and how to say it and practicing that is also makes acting in that encounter a lot easier. So that's kind of what these Know Your Rights trainings seek to do. So today's training is completely different than the way that we normally do trainings. I oversee our Know Your Rights training program, which focuses on how to interact with police in police encounters. This is really going to focus today on your right to photograph and videotape police, and so it's going to focus on those scenarios. If you guys are interested in doing a Know Your Rights training, I'm always interested in helping put on Know Your Rights trainings. We only ask for 10 people in attendance. They're free, and we can do them for young people. We can do them for any age, any demographic. And actually, one of your members, William Rawle in the back, is one of our Know Your Rights trainers. So if you're also interested in being a Know Your Rights trainer, we're always looking for trainers. And two of the materials on your chair are Know Your Rights materials. One is a Know Your Rights training, or Know Your Rights card. The other is our magic words, which will come up a couple times today. But our magic words are what we think are the most important things to learn how and when to use those words. They're protective, mostly in case a lot of those are if you're going to be charged with a crime. They're really important to protect you later on down the road. But some of these also will protect you in other ways as well. So I just wanted to point out those two things on your chair. And then the photographing and videotaping flyer, that's really what we're going to focus on today. So by a show of hands, first I want to know, are there any lawyers or police in the room? Raise your hand if you're a lawyer or police. I should have just done it. Let me first raise your hand if you're a lawyer. I'll refer legal questions to you. And police? Any police in the room? No police in the room. Okay. And how many of you have had a negative encounter with police? Okay, just a handful of you. That's good. And how many of you have had positive interactions with police? A little bit more. Great. How many of you have recorded a police encounter? Any kind of recording? You have one hand, two hands? Great. Oh, I should have raised my hand. And this is the time when I get to embarrass two of the people in the room. Penny and William and I were driving a car home from, I think, the caucus meeting or a rally or something. And we got pulled over by the police, and I was able to use what I will plug later, which is the ACLU's Mobile Justice app. It's an app that allows you to record the police, and the video or the audio gets automatically sent to the ACLU, even if it's stopped or your phone drops or whatever. So we'll talk about that later. But just recently, I was able to record that. Luckily, the police were extremely nice and let the three of us go without any trouble. But just in case that didn't happen, I recorded it. So I want us to think about recording the police. Not only a lot of the videos that we've been seeing are the worst things that can happen in a police encounter, but I also use it just when I get, with police being pulled over, or as we were at a city council meeting recently where Robert Leeds almost got kicked out, and so I thought he was probably going to get arrested, so I was videotaping that. So there's different ways that we can kind of hold the police accountable by keeping our cameras rolling. Okay, so a few people, one person has recorded police. Raise your hand if you're concerned about police brutality. There we go. Okay. And how many of you think that you will have the opportunity to videotape police misconduct in your life? That this will happen? That you'll have to use your phone? Okay. Okay. So I want you to keep in mind throughout this that this isn't only recording when it's happening to you, but also when you're seeing it happen to others, even if you don't know those people. I think the Hornet analogy, if we think that we're all watching out for each other, even if it ends up that the police were in the right and the person who's being arrested is in the wrong, taking the video is only going to help, because it only shows what actually happens and will help with the truth was. So pointing out the mobile justice and your rights to photo and record flyer, that's kind of what we're going to be going through in this presentation. So I'm going to flip through this. What I'm going to do is just go through your rights, go through some tips, and then we're going to watch a couple videos, and I'm going to ask you guys to tell me what you think people did well or did not do well in recording police incidents. So, first, you are legally allowed to photograph or video, I'm just going to say video, record from now on. You can record the police in any outdoor public place where you are legally allowed. So, and you can record any building that's within that view. That includes federal buildings, airports, the police in the area. And so a couple examples of outdoor places that are public: sidewalks are almost always sidewalks are public. If you're inside of a private company's private property, it might not be, but most sidewalks are public. And And then parks and that sort of thing, if it's, during daylight hours or whatever it's open, those are a couple examples of public spaces. So you can record police in those public spaces anytime. When you're on private property, yes,
Is it too early?
if it's about that size.
What about schools?
Well, if you're allowed to be in that school, at that time you're allowed to videotape. Now, what's different is videotaping private citizens, which we'll come back to in a little bit. But when you're talking about police are acting in an official capacity. When they're acting in an official capacity, they can be recorded. I can't record you or audio tape you without your knowledge and consent. That's a wiretap problem. So if you went into a school and started recording children, you wouldn't be able to do that. But if you're recording the police, if you were allowed to be there, then that would be protected. In private property, the property owner sets those rules. So if you're in a Walmart or if you're on a private apartment complex or something, those rules might be different. So you can record during a traffic stop. My tip for the traffic stop, as I mentioned earlier, I've done that before, is to just have the phone set somewhere, and even if the video isn't fully capturing it, having it set aside next to you. Some people who have GPS things have told me that works really well to set your phone up there, so it's recording you and the window. So you can record during a traffic stop, and you can also record while they're arresting someone. Now, this is what shouldn't happen. I'm not again saying that this isn't going to happen, but police should not order you to stop taking pictures or video. What they should do is, if you're interfering or they think you're interfering, is to ask you to go away, but they can't tell you to stop. They shouldn't tell you to stop. They also should never demand that you delete anything on your phone.
Is there a distance that should be between, or legal distance between these?
We're going to talk about the distance in a little bit, but there isn't a set answer. The police are going to determine what they think is too close, and one of our videos actually will show you an obnoxious interpretation of what one officer thought was too close. Police officers may order citizens to cease activities that are truly interfering in law enforcement operations, and this is where this answers the question. Court's gonna side with the officer when it comes to whether you're interfering or not. So if an officer tells you to back up, I would back up. And we'll talk about the quality of the video in a minute too, that's related to that. If the officer says they'll arrest you if you continue to use your camera, it's usually better to put your camera away. But then, let's see, I'm gonna skip ahead. Oh no, well, okay, sorry. Again, if you don't want to be arrested, listen to what the officer says, try to step away a little bit and do as they say rather than getting risked. But again, this is your own. If somebody is getting killed and you are willing to risk arrest to take that video, then, this is your own decision to make in the moment. But we typically say if it's not a life or death situation and you don't want to get arrested, then it's probably best to do as the officer says. And if you're videotaping already, then you're going to have the video of the officer telling you to stop recording, which then will be sent to the ACLU if you're using the app. Police officers may not confiscate or demand you to see the photos or video without a warrant. We have had complaints about this before, so they're not supposed to do that. Again, though, if they're ordering you to do so and you don't want to be arrested, you might have to comply, but again, that's something that we would look into if it happened. And if you are arrested, they often take your phone and they can look through the contents of your phone. And that's often for, I think it's supposed to be a quick review of the contents of your phone for evidence or if it's relevant to the arrest. If you're stopped because you're recording, you can ask if you're being detained or if you're free to go. And that is my absolute favorite magic word on the magic word sheet. We should all learn to say this, that if you're ever in a situation with a police officer and you're not sure what's going on, if you're about to be arrested, if you're being investigated, to say, am I being detained or am I free to go? And if they say you're not being detained, or if they say you're free to go, you should probably go. So this question is to determine whether or not you're being detained, which requires a certain level of suspicion, but you can't determine that in the moment. So just asking if you're being detained or stop is considered voluntary. So if a cop comes up and starts chatting with you and you're chatting back, that whole thing is voluntary. Even if you feel like you weren't free to go, until you ask, am I free to go? That is a voluntary exchange. So it's really important to say, like, you don't have to go if you don't want, but it's always helpful to ask that question. If you are being detained, you can politely state that you believe that you have the right to report, and we call it the First Amendment right to report, that you do not consent to the officer looking through or deleting anything on your camera. And if the officer reaches for your camera or phone, do not resist. And resisting can simply be pulling your arm toward yourself, as calm as you can be, and as few movements you can make, the better. So if he or she is being aggressive and trying to grab your phone from you, let them do it. And again, if you're videotaping, that will probably be called tape. And if you use ACLU app, it's going to be sent to us regularly and stop. And then repeat that you do not consent to any search or seizure. Okay, that's all the boring legal stuff. And now I'm going to go through tips, which is more the practical stuff about how to report police. I have 6 tips. First one, hold your phone horizontally. As you have probably seen, if you look at police videos, you see a lot of them where there's like the black sides on both sides, and it looks like you're looking through a little window. That's because people are holding it vertically. Hold it horizontally. And also, how you hold it, I've heard some people say you should hold it at your waist so that it doesn't look like you're holding a weapon. And so thinking about how you're holding things is also important. Hold it like you're videotaping, not like you're like holding on a weapon or putting it in somebody's face. Tip number 2 is just to move slowly. It's going to make the video recording better. It's also going to keep your movements from looking like you're aggressive. So pulling out the camera, using the camera, moving around, moving slowly is always a good idea. And think about it as you're a reporter, as you're a journalist or something, that you are a neutral observer. And this is the next 2 tips also lend to that. Calmly narrate what you're doing while you're doing it. These are my favorite videos, the ones that say, the officer says, back up, and the person taking the video says, I'm backing up, I'm taking steps back, or I'm moving across the street, or I'm exercising my right to record, I'm not interfering. Saying those things out loud helps because it's being recorded in the video. Number 4, get badge numbers, license, name of police on the recording. So if you're recording to zoom into a badge or to get the back of the police officer's car, that kind of thing is really helpful for identifying officers later if something does, if it is an incident of police misconduct. Now, to answer your question, stand back. Your natural reaction is to get into the situation with your camera to take the video. That ends up making it really shaky and kind of blurry. It also puts you at far greater risk for arrest. So a lot of the best videos, they can be across the street. You don't have to be a few feet away from the officer. So I think that everyone should first back up while they're doing it, and then if you need to zoom, you can zoom from there, or if you need to get a little bit closer, you can. But there is no need to be 3 feet away from where somebody's, tussling around on the ground. So standing back is, and for me, that for safety purposes and to not get involved in the police, that is to me one of the more important ones. And you think that it's not going to be a good video, but as you'll see in some of our examples, the video's far back. It also shows you a bigger picture of what's going on, what the scene is, how hectic it is, and what the environment looks like. And then the last tip is don't shout, remain calm. Part of this is just one of our common sense things of not, to remain calm in a police interaction, but also when you look at your video later, as anybody's taking a video, you hear your voice loud and you're like, oh God, that sounds horrible. Because you're the one closest to this. So the police officer might be, 20 feet away, and then you're saying something loud, and you then sound like the more aggressive, the more angry, or the more upset person. So keeping your voice down while you're taking I move on to videos, questions about tips or rights?
Okay, you said that an organization like Martin can tell them they can set their own house, but can they set the house on the spot or is it written somewhere?
Where is that?
If you're at like a Kmart or religion, you know, an establishment, you said they could set their standard for whether you can record or not. You know, do they set their standard ahead of time or they do it on the spot? Like a case by case basis?
They should not do it on the spot, but, you can't necessarily know that, and that's in a lot of police encounters, you could ask to see their policy. I would probably ask to see the policy, but, they might not have to show it to you, and you might just not know. And so you might have to leave and then figure out later if that was something they made up on the spot or they actually had a policy. But that's a really good question. I'm gonna move to the next bit. All right, I hope that the Wi-Fi was a little bit. Oh, I didn't even start with the video when I started, okay. Video time, guys. So that's what I wanted to start everything with, but we'll move on now to the actual videos. So I have a couple videos I want to show, and I want you guys to think about, this is not about how the people behave, but think about the person taking the video, what they did well, and what they didn't do well. And I'll just give you a hint, this person did some things well and some things that I think that they shouldn't have done, so. It's a 2-minute video. officer said, well, he's old enough to not need his mommy, and that's what started getting him upset, and they said that they were arresting him because he was acting funny. And then the very last thing that you hear is that the woman taking the video says, did she do well?
Stood back and just video.
Speak up, please.
She stood back and recorded and took it all in.
Well, I think that's important too, to just give her credit for reporting the incident. Because, you know, we wouldn't have heard, the language of that police officer was so awful, but the only way to prove that, it would have been he said, she said. And you wouldn't believe how this woman was acting without that video recording. So it's just even that she did it.
She got the license plate number?
Right. Right.
And also, she remained calm.
Video.
She what?
And she remained calm.
Yes.
And she got the mother, which was good.
She did what?
She also showed the mother, like, the surroundings, so they could know, if they tried to say the mother was threatening them, allegedly.
Right, that was the camera. Anything else she did good? Yep, she did the camera the right way. Great. And what do you think she did poorly or could have done better?
And I talked about it.
Hmm?
The video or the person who was talking to about it immediately.
Right. The sound.
Step back and stay better,
Yeah.
better scope.
Yeah, I think she could have been further back. Because she had to actually move back when they were starting to take, and some police would have made her move by then. But she was a little close. Anything else that she shouldn't have done? So I think the end, I got a camera now seemed like a little bit risky on her part. That first of all, that doesn't sound very good, but then also that could have, if that police officer was in a really bad mood, that might have attracted some attention to her.
Oh, I think part of the reason why people respond that way is because it's a sense of powerlessness, even if you report it. Because, particularly in areas in New York, it's like, even if something is proven on the spot, it's something in certain neighborhoods where they want to let the cops know, like, we're watching, because who knows what's going to happen after that, even if they have proof of it, you know what I mean? It's like the cops can always say, well, we had reason to do that.
Right.
And in certain neighborhoods, it repeatedly happens. So people who see it happen, like, you know, they want to yell it out and let them know, like,
Right, and especially if you see it a lot and you finally were able to pull out your phone in time, it does feel good to realize I have that on recording. Good, okay. Now this is really gonna show the difficulty in, this is a police officer who is being, really manipulative and threatening. And this guy handles it really well, but it gives you a sense of how difficult this can be when dealing with a police officer who's trying to get you to go away. So I'm in 50 seconds into this incident. He's just been recording a guy getting arrested over there. And this is actually in DC. It says it's in California.
You with me? Okay. We got an investigation going on here. You want to be a part of it? I'll suggest you pack up and go. Right? This is not public. Right?
Officer Reynolds, I think it is public.